Today, we are diving into the incredible work of Karen Horney. And let's get this out of the way right up front. It's pronounced Horney. She was a true pioneer in psychoanalysis, and she completely changed the conversation about personality, anxiety, and what really makes us who we are. So what was her big idea? Well, at a time when psychoanalysis was all about biological drives and instincts, Horney came along with this pretty revolutionary thought. What if our culture, our society, and our relationships are what really build our personalities? It was a massive shift in thinking, and it's really the key to understanding all of her work. Horney was one of the very first women to even be trained in psychoanalysis. And she had huge respect for Sigmund Freud. She saw his work as this monumental achievement. But she wasn't just going to accept it as a final word. She saw that his theories were built from a very specific male point of view and felt it was absolutely essential to move beyond that model. Her ideas didn't just appear out of nowhere. They evolved over her career in three main phases. First, she took on Freud's ideas about women with her feminine psychology. Then she zoomed out to look at culture and anxiety and how they're connected. And finally, she developed her mature theory, which really gets into our deep internal psychological defenses. So let's walk through that journey. Okay, let's start with phase one. Horney's early work was this direct, really powerful critique of how Freudian psychology viewed women. Her argument was actually pretty simple. The theories were biased because, well, they were written by men who just couldn't fully understand the female experience. And this is where it gets really interesting. She takes one of Freud's most famous concepts and just flips it right on its head. So Freud had his theory of penis envy. Horney fired back with the idea of womb envy, suggesting that men might have this deep, unconscious envy of a woman's ability to create life. And, she argued, that envy could actually lead men to devalue women as a way to cope with it. And she didn't just stop there. She introduced other really important ideas, like the masculinity complex, where a woman might feel inferior in society and adopt more masculine traits to get by. But here's the crucial part. She said these issues weren't biological. Not at all. They were the direct result of growing up in a patriarchal culture that constantly tells women they are less than. And that pressure, she said, leads to low self-esteem and this compulsive need for love, the overvaluation of love, as a way to feel worthy. This brings us to a huge turning point in her thinking. Horney eventually came to believe that while gender was important, the real source of our psychological struggles wasn't gender itself. It was something much bigger, our culture, and especially the relationships we have in early childhood. And this is her most famous concept, basic anxiety. Now, Freud thought anxiety was the result of our repressed urges. Horney said, nope, you've got it backwards. Anxiety comes first. It's this deep feeling of being small and helpless in a big, scary world, and it comes from not getting real warmth and security from your parents. That feeling is what drives our behavior. And you can see how this spirals into a vicious cycle. It all starts with that troubled parent-child relationship. That creates the basic anxiety. Then, the child feels hostility towards the parents, which is natural, but they can't show it, right? Because they're totally dependent. So that hostility gets pushed down, repressed, which just makes the original anxiety even worse. And that loop becomes the breeding ground for neurosis later in life. So if you're feeling all this basic anxiety, what do? How do you possibly cope? Horney said we develop one of three main strategies. She called them neurotic trends, which are these compulsive ways we relate to other people just to feel safe. The first strategy is moving toward people. This is the compliant type. They have this bottomless need for affection and approval. Their basic thinking is, if I just give in, if I make everyone like me, I won't get hurt. So they put their own needs last and look for a dominant partner, hoping someone else will make them feel safe. The second one is moving against people. This is the aggressive type. Their philosophy is, if I have the power, then no one can hurt me. They see the world as a jungle, a battle for survival, where you either dominate or you get dominated. So they feel a constant need to be in control, to be on top. And the third way to cope is moving away from people. This is the detached type. Their motto is basically, if I just withdraw, nothing and no one can touch me. They build these emotional walls around themselves, prizing independence above all else, because getting close to others just feels too dangerous. All right, so that's how we relate to others. But what's going on inside our own minds? This is where we get to Horney's mature theory. She started exploring the really complex internal worlds we build to protect ourselves, a process she called the search for glory. At the very heart of this inner world is the idealized image,
Basically, to escape from feeling like a flawed, anxious person, you invent a perfect version of yourself. A hero, a genius, a saint, whatever it is. The problem is, this perfect self is a total fantasy, and it stops you from ever doing the hard work of actual, real personal growth.
So, how do you try to become this perfect, idealized person? Through something Horney gave this incredible name, the tyranny of the shoulds. It's that nagging voice in your head with an endless list of impossible demands. I should be the perfect friend. I should never get angry. I should always be successful. It's like you're trying to force yourself into a mold that you can never, ever fit. And all of this gets locked into what she called the pride system. You build up this neurotic pride based on your fake, idealized self. But of course, reality always gets in the way. And when you fail to live up to those impossible shoulds, that pride instantly flips into intense self-hate. This creates what she called the central inner conflict, a devastating war between this fake pride system and your real self's natural desire to grow. So, when you step back and look at everything, what is Karen Horney's legacy? Well, it's nothing short of a fundamental shift in psychology. She helped move the entire field away from a strict focus on biology and toward a much deeper, more human understanding of how culture and relationships make us who we are. To wrap it all up, her contributions were just massive. She was a pioneer of cultural psychoanalysis. She totally reframed anxiety as a core driver of our personality. She put the parent-child relationship right at the center of psychological development, and her work paved the way for so many modern relational theories. And of course, she gives psychology a critical and, frankly, long overdue female perspective that is still so incredibly important today.